Hi, I'm Brian Sapp, and this is Brian Taubert, and we're with the Business Leadership Academy here to help you skill up, stay positive, and stand out. How you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing good, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing well. A little tired, but just working through
Well, I
it.
was lying. I'm tired too.
We're here to talk today about prospecting. Again, I'm really just kind of curious to see how I can use some of these tips to help me grow my business. I've got a product that I want to sell. I want to make videos for people and sell that to people. How do I prospect? I mean, is that prospecting going to help me find customers?
Yeah, I mean, prospecting is the foundation of business. It's the foundation of sales, and it's just something people don't really realize the importance of. That in sales, you're going to spend, if you're going to be good, you're going to spend probably 80% of your time prospecting, because people need to be looking at what you got. If you don't have any eyeballs on what you're doing, it doesn't matter how good what you have is. It doesn't matter how good your presentation is. If there's nobody watching you present, you're presenting to an empty audience. I get a lot of, in my line of work outside of this, of what I do, I deal with a lot of young salesmen, and they'll come into my office and say, how am I going to sell? What am I going to do? And one of the very first things I say is, well, does every single person you know what you're doing? And some say yes, some say no. And I'll say, have you had a personal conversation with each and every one of them? And the answer is always going to be no. And the answer to that is, well, you've got your work cut out for you right there. The first thing you need to do is have a conversation with every single person you know about your product or service. Sometimes they feel like, well, I don't want to talk to people about what I do. I'm embarrassed by it. Well, then you shouldn't be selling it. Because, I think we talked about that in one of the other videos, that if you're not completely sold out on your product or service, then you shouldn't be doing that. You need to be convinced that what I'm selling, that to not tell people what I'm doing, to not share it with people, would be a disservice. And you got to use that as a starting point. And, if you're worried about people making fun of you, well, sounds like you might need some new friends anyways, because you have to prospect. You have to let absolutely everyone in the world know what you're doing.
I think that's probably a place to start, because I think I've talked to some people, and I've not told everybody what I'm doing. I mean, you have any tips on, like, what's that like? Is it like a hard sell? Am I like, hey, I've got this, do you want to do it? Or is it just...
No, and we talked about this earlier before we started filming, that everybody knows that person that they join some direct sales company and they start throwing their product up on their personal Facebook page, and everybody feels like that's all they want to talk about. That's all they want to do, and they mean well, but that's not the right way to handle it. You want your friends to still feel free to be around you and not feel like I have to talk about photography every time I'm around Brian. Mm-hmm. And you don't want that. But at the same time, I think that if you had a friend that went out and used some kind of photography or camera service of what you do and used a different company, you feel kind of silly too, that, well, why aren't they using me? And so there's a fine line there, and there's a way to handle it. And one of those is, when you have those individual conversations, you need to kind of script it, and it needs to be non-pushy. That if I was going to call, when I was selling cars, which I don't sell cars anymore, but when I was selling cars, is one of the things I could do is I could call you and say, hey, Brian, this is Brian. Hey, how you doing? I said, I just want to let you know I'm calling you for a specific reason. Not, hey, how you doing, have a conversation, and then go, oh, by the way, I want you to buy a car from me. Because then, especially if we haven't talked for a long time. Mm-hmm. So say, I know we haven't talked for a while. I'm calling you for a specific reason. I want to let you know that I have started selling cars at XYZ Motors. I'm very serious about this as a career choice. And I was wondering if you are in the market for a car, or anybody you know. And I'm not asking you to buy from me, Brian. I'm just asking if you would give me and my company some consideration.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I can't imagine anyone being offended by that, because I haven't made you feel like you have to buy anything from me, and I'm going to have more progress that way. I'm going to ask you for an answer on, I'm not one for the market. Okay, when you are in the market, would you consider me? Yeah. And if I'm doing social media, and we can talk more about that, it's at that point that, everybody's on Facebook. And so I'm going to create a separate Facebook page. And, for everybody out there, don't put your business on your Facebook page, on your personal page. You're going to scare your friends away, and they're not going to like any of your posts because they think you're going to try to sell you stuff. And I only know that because I've already been there, done that, and made that mistake. Mm-hmm. You need to create a separate page, a fan page that's connected to your page. Mm-hmm. And then personally, when you're contacting all these friends, say, I'm going to invite you to my XYZ Motors page. I have a page just to let you know what's going on, and so you can see my progress and how I'm doing and how I'm helping people out. Would you be okay with being on that page with me? Of course you're going to say fine. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to say no to that because I've treated you with respect. I haven't been pushy, and I've let you know that I'm very serious about what I'm doing. If I'm not very serious about what I'm doing, I shouldn't be selling.
I like that. Yeah, I like that you talk about being honest up front. Just pleasantries where they're needed, but that's not it. It's like, hey, we know each other. We have this relationship in the past. I'd just like you to consider me as you go forward with this service that I have for you. So I really like that. It's just honest and upfront and direct and not killer.
Right. You see, and this is something that you can talk to your friends about. You could open up your high school yearbook and call people this way with your product or service. If you're doing some kind of direct sales thing or you're doing something online, then there's literally no one you can't call. And if they're on your Facebook page, odds are their phone number is in there. Mm-hmm. Just pick up the phone and call them. If you have to leave a message, then just leave a message and say, I have something important. I'd like a couple minutes of your time. Please call me back at. It's respectful, and it also shows that you're serious about what you're doing, that you're intent on being a professional, mm-hmm. because nobody wants to buy from an amateur. And the funny thing is that I told you when I was selling cars, I'd have guys come to me, and that's what I do. I'd say, go out and do these steps that we just talked about, and I've had one person do that in years, and the rest of them end up failing at sales because if we don't prospect, we're doomed for failure. It's not a lottery ticket. It's not something where you go, well, I'm going to try to sell this, or I'm going to try to be a part of that. There's not great attrition in sales, and there's not great attrition in business because of some kind of luck, rolling the dice. It's planning, skills, execution. You can make more money than you ever dreamed of for most people in sales, but you have to become a professional. It's not a lottery ticket.
After you talk with those that you have a relationship with, friends and acquaintances, where do you go next? What's the next step after that for prospecting?
I like to think of it from a standpoint of everyone that I know. You want to keep business cards, but you don't want to use them as an excuse for making a connection with a person. Okay? When I used business cards, a lot of times I would get business cards that were completely blank on the back, mm-hmm. so they could be written on. And a lot of times, if I exchange business cards with somebody, there needs to be a conversation that goes along with that. I need to know a little something about the person. If I'm having a casual conversation, it's not unusual for, hey, what do you do for a living, to come up. What do you do for a living? And it doesn't matter who it is. If you're taking pictures, well, there's senior portraits, there's weddings, whatever it is, the things that photography. I'm not a photographer, mm-hmm. so I'm just shooting from the hip there. But I know that when I was selling cars, everybody needs cars. Mm-hmm. You can't tell by my physique, but I did Taekwondo for a while. I was an instructor, and not everybody needs that, but I approached it from a standpoint of that I truly believe that everyone can benefit from martial arts instruction. So that's a conversation that could come up to say, people, what do you do for a living? I'd say, well, you ever seen one of those kids that just seems like they get really good grades? They're very well behaved, respectful, just seems like they don't get in trouble. They'd be like, yeah, yeah. I go, well, I teach kids how to be that way, and I do it through martial arts because, we've talked about this. People don't want the drill; they want the hole. They want the solution. And so, you know, with cars, you're providing transportation solutions. You're providing memory solutions. There's all these different things that we do, but we just have to make a connection with everybody we speak to. And usually, if I give somebody one of my cards, it's after we've had a conversation. And then there's going to be similarities to all those conversations to where I say, well, would you, I know, I used to say, nobody likes car salesmen. And we seem to be getting along pretty well, so would you consider giving me a call the next time you get a car? Yeah, Brian, that's fine, because you're not being pushy. You're not pushing it on somebody. And when you treat your sales as a profession, and you act as a professional, people will be drawn to you, because people don't like pushy, they don't like manipulative, they don't like slick, but too often that's what we get stuck with because we don't have an alternative. So when we become that alternative, we automatically make ourselves more attractive in a sales sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Keys to the content. I mean, is it just back to really knowing your product, and when you're making that prospect with a person?
That's a really good question. And yes, you need to know your product backwards and forwards, okay? But when I'm talking to a prospect, I'm going to ask more questions than anything, because while I need to know my product, you're getting a cell phone for somebody. Suppose you're selling cell phones, and one person is going to care about different features than another person is going to care about. This person right here just wants to make calls and text. And so a lot of times salespeople tend to just start throwing up everything they know about their product, and there's a good chance the person in front of you could care less. They just want great pictures. They just want great movies. They don't care about the aperture of the exposure. I don't. That's not my thing. But I know that what you're going to do with video looks great, is a great product, and so from my end of it, that's all I care about. You probably, when you buy a car, don't know the horsepower of the engine, of the torque.
No.
I don't care. And so one of the things in sales that'll help us in interacting with others is knowing that it's always about the other person. It's not about the person selling. You keep it about the other person. You ask questions, and then you use the knowledges of your product that you have that fill or don't fill their needs.
So just asking questions to find out what their needs are.
Right.
And then finding the right way to help them get what they want.
Right.
Is that it?
Rather, as opposed to what you want to sell them. Right. Or what we see too often out there, the upsell. And I think that's disgusting. I think that takes advantage of people. And to where, when I go eat fast food, no, I don't want an apple pie. If I wanted an apple pie, I would have ordered an apple pie. And so I know that's a thing that happens in corporations worldwide. I hate upselling. It's one thing that this may be something the person didn't think of, okay? But when I go shopping, I know what I want. I need somebody to tell me what I want. And the thing is I can try to sell you everything in the world that I can right now at this moment. But what I'm really more concerned about is you come back and be a repeat customer, be a loyal customer.
All right, Brian, thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Sapp. This is Brian Taubert, and we're with the Business Leadership Academy. Be sure to like our page. Be sure to like this video and share it so that others can enjoy it and learn too. Brian, what are people going to get when they like our page?
You like your page, we're going to keep the content coming your way. It's free. We're not
selling anything right now. So share this with your friends, spread the word. We're going to help you skill up, stay positive, and stand out.